Welcome into Minnesota Vikings Now. I am Tom Downey. Here's what's coming up on today's show. Some Jerry Jeudy trade rumors are out there. We'll once again talk about Dalvin Cook because we thought he was going to be traded or cut, and he hasn't, and that's kind of weird. We'll also talk about drafting Will Levis. I got thoughts on that one. But first, it is a race to 15,000 subscribers here between us, our Saints channel, and our Broncos channel. I would like nothing more to stick it to both of those channels and their hosts. We have a long way to go. We're about 1,500 subs behind. Let's catch that ground. Hit that sub button for free Vikings videos right now. Let's hit the Jerry Jeudy trade rumors as Denver, not quietly, is clearly shopping Jerry Jeudy around. They have been resolute, per ESPN, of getting a first or second now. They've been saying first. Now, all of a sudden, the second creeps into the conversation there in a potential trade of Jerry Jeudy. They shopped him at the trade deadline last year. They were asking for a second and more. Did not get that. Then Jerry Jeudy played even better down the stretch of 2022, and now the asking price has gone up for the former first-round pick who had his best year ever in 2022, 972 yards, 6 scores, has battled some injuries. He is not the CeeDee Lamb. He's not the Justin Jefferson caliber of player, but he is kind of in that high-end 2, low-end wide receiver run or one range. And I think it's also fair to point out it's not like the quarterback or offensive play was good last year for Denver. There is still untapped upside. He's a good athlete, a good route runner. He'd be a really fun fit for a lot of different teams. I think the Vikings fit that category. Wouldn't we all feel better about Jefferson, Jeudy, and Osborne as the big three than, not including T.J. Hockenson, of course, than Jefferson, Osborne, and Jalen Nailor, who I think is going to be more of a receiver 4 or 5 in the NFL, but it would cost you significant draft capital. And that would probably be your first pick. Now, maybe you can do a second and something of note, maybe a second, another draft pick, a conditional pick, or whatever. But if Denver really does want that first rounder in the A.J. Brown style trade, maybe it's a first and they give you another day 3 pick like the Marquise Brown trade, for example, from a few years ago, then that starts to make some sense. So this is today's pinned comment. So make sure you go vote at the pinned comment. Would you trade the 23rd overall pick for Jerry Jeudy? Y for yes, N for no. It is the pinned comment, like I mentioned on today's video. If the ad break comes here on YouTube, just ignore it. Don't pay attention. Go to the pinned comment, type in Y for yes, N for no. In general, the wide receiver 2 spot is a pretty fair question mark. Now, look, you have T.J. Hockenson who will get big touches there. I don't know if just promoting K.J. Osborne is the likely outcome here. So here are the options laid out, right? Promote K.J. Osborne. Number 2, trade for a stud wide receiver. That could be a Jerry Jeudy. DeAndre Hopkins, fun idea. Courtland Sutton, also of Denver. Go sign an Odell Beckham. That's an option too. Or draft a wide receiver in a class that is not full of wide receiver ones relative to the recent insane run. It's just not as good. But you can still draft somebody pretty solid round 1, round 2, even round 3. Here are the stats of the 4 guys most linked in various trades or just promoting KJ Osborne there. Jerry Jeudy, 972 yards. Hopkins missed some time, 717. Big difference there in the yards per catch. Arizona couldn't put the ball downfield very much there. Courtland Sutton had been extended by Denver. You add Jeudy, Hopkins, or Sutton, and it sounds like Hopkins or Sutton would be much cheaper. I got interest there. A lot of conflicting reports on what Arizona is asking for, a second and more versus what they're going to get, which is like a 4th or a 3rd. Maybe it's a draft night trade for DeAndre Hopkins. He's going to get moved. I think Minnesota would be a great fit. Seems like teams wary of the age and contract. Minnesota should be working the phones to figure out that wide receiver 2 spot. Prediction time via free agency, trade, draft, internal promotion. Who will be the number 2 wide receiver for the Vikings this upcoming season? Predict for me in the comments section. Let's revisit the latest on Dalvin Cook. A lot of uncertainty here. I know producer Patrick and I both thought, he's not going to be back as a Viking. Well, here we are in late March with no clear decision-making for Dalvin Cook. Here's what Dustin Baker, one of the Vikings beat reporters, said about the status of Dalvin Cook. If Cook is a Viking in 2023, the analytics-focused general manager will pay a running back room about $20 million. That's not something the quote-unquote analytics endorse. It's actually quite silly, considering teams with high-paid running backs never win Super Bowls. Dustin's not wrong, and he's actually very accurate to say that. Dalvin Cook's numbers began to decline. It's not bad, 4.4 yards per carry, but the advanced numbers were very poor for Dalvin Cook in terms of what he maximizes runs, and the average has dipped by about 0.4 each year, or 0.3 each year. That should raise some red flags because the shelf life of running backs is obscenely short. Now, could you trade him? Maybe. Maybe that's what the wait is over. Maybe the Vikings are shopping Dalvin Cook, and if they can get a draft pick at running back, then they'll move on. Maybe that's a potential outcome there. The Bills with, Dalvin and James Cook together? That'd be fun for Buffalo. The Bengals are at least maybe going to move on from Joe Mixon themselves. The Falcons love backs. Denver's in the market with some concerns over Javonte Williams' long-term concerns. Could you send Dalvin Cook as part of a Jeudy Sutton trade? Throwing it out there. Carolina paid Miles Sanders some big money, but maybe they go two-headed attack to help out their young quarterback. Whoever they take, of course, at number 1 overall, because it will be a quarterback there. Fun fact, by the way, before we go, at least on the Cook portion. If Dalvin Cook is traded, it'd be the first year since 2006 without Peterson, healthy or not, or Cook as RB1. That's kind of insane. That is unheard of long-term longevity and consistency at one position, especially at the running back spot. So what will end up happening with Dalvin Cook? T for trade, P for pass. Let me know in the comment section what the Vikings will end up doing with Dalvin Cook. Let's have the Will Levis conversation after Hendon Hooker pick, now Will Levis pick rumors. The Athletics' recent mock draft, the Vikings going up to number 7 to draft Will Levis, and NFL Network's Chad Reuter had the Vikings moving to number 10 to take Will Levis. So two notable outlets mocking a trade up for Will Levis, which that would have Vikings fans feeling some type of way. Let's explain the rationale from Chad here. Kirk Cousins entering a contract year, and the Vikings expect to be good enough to keep them out of the running for the top quarterback prospects in the 2024 NFL Draft. Minnesota might choose to shoot its shot now by getting Levis to trade with Philadelphia in exchange for a third-round pick this year and a 2024 first-round pick. Levis may still find a fan among teams at the top of the draft because of his arm strength, mobility, and competitive fire. Levis's numbers were not very good this past year. And look, the arm strength is there. The mobility is there. There's a lot of things to like about Will Levis's upside. There's also things to be concerned about for Will Levis in terms of the inconsistencies, some of the decision-making, the mechanics I don't like. His back foot comes up. It leads to issues. He's going to be 24 years old. His rookies are taking a 24-year-old developmental quarterback pick. That's scary. He played in a pro-style offense. That's valuable. My biggest issue with Levis, there are too many times, and I'm getting caught in that Ole Miss game where he blew it for them. He blew it. That they just were not consistent. And he would make the critical, back-breaking, game-ending mistake when you really can't have those out of your quarterback. But there are some where it could work, and that's why Minnesota's a good spot, right? For any young quarterback. Great young weapons, Jefferson, Hockenson, etc. You can sit and learn behind Kirk Cousins for a year. Young, offensive-minded head coach and a franchise left tackle in Christian Darrisaw. We will not forget about him. The final parting gift of the Rick Spielman era. There's also a draft capital issue. You're going to move a first this year, a third this year, or first next year, third this year. You're down your second, which was fine because you got T.J. Hockenson. That was worth it there. For a quarterback who's not going to play. Do you want to win games this year? If so, don't take Levis. If you're kind of out on Kirk after the season, okay, but you're risking everything on Levis. Because if he works, congrats. The GM gets an extension. Head coach gets an extension. The other coaches all get promotions. If he doesn't work, everyone's fired. That's a big gamble to take if you're Minnesota.